Ever wondered how a chunk of rock buried miles underground transforms into this, a gleaming gold bar worth over $600,000? Today, we're taking you deep inside one of the world's most secure industries, gold bar production, where molten metal, industrial chemistry, and centuries of trust come together. And here's a challenge for you. How heavy do you think a standard gold bar is? Drop your guess in the comments. You might be surprised. Let's dive in, because what happens to gold before it ends up in a vault might just blow your mind. How is gold mined from raw materials? To find gold, you have to move mountains, literally. Our journey begins in some of the harshest, dustiest, most remote regions on Earth, from the rugged outcrops of Western Australia to the vast open-pit mines of Nevada and the deep underground tunnels of South Africa. Gold hides in places most people will never go. There are two main ways gold is mined: open-pit mining and underground mining. In open-pit mining, imagine a massive staircase dug into the earth, descending hundreds of meters. Explosives break the rock, massive excavators scoop it up, and 200-ton dump trucks carry the ore away, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. In underground mining, it's a different world. Tight, dark tunnels cut deep into the rock, often kilometers below the surface. Miners work in sweltering heat, navigating labyrinths of steel and stone, chasing narrow veins of gold-bearing ore. Here's where it gets crazy. You need to process about 1 ton of rock to extract just 1 to 5 grams of gold. That's like grinding up your entire car just to find a single earring. And it's not just the rock. The cost, effort, and energy to extract this metal is immense, about $1,200 to $1,500 per ounce in production costs for most large-scale operations. Despite that, demand keeps rising. Jewelry, electronics, investment. Humanity's obsession with gold drives an entire global industry. Do you know that over 3,500 metric tons of gold are mined globally every year? And almost half of it comes from just 5 countries: China, Australia, Russia, Canada, and the US. Next comes the crushing and chemical extraction process. Once the gold-bearing rock is hauled out of the earth, it doesn't sparkle. It looks like dirty gravel. The ore is fed into jaw crushers that pulverize giant rocks into smaller chunks. From there, it passes through ball mills, huge rotating drums filled with steel balls that grind the rock into a fine powder, almost like flour. This powder is then mixed with water and pumped into a massive tank where the real magic, well, science, happens. This is called cyanide leaching. Yes, cyanide, the same deadly poison. But in controlled industrial settings, cyanide is incredibly effective at dissolving gold from crushed ore. It creates a gold cyanide solution, which is then passed through activated carbon filters. Carbon acts like a sponge, soaking up the dissolved gold. To release the gold from the carbon, hot caustic soda and steam are used in a process called elution. The gold-rich liquid is then treated with zinc dust, which causes gold to precipitate, separate, out of solution. It might look messy, but this is where gold begins to take shape. Next, how do we refine the gold to 99.99% purity? At this point, we've got something that vaguely resembles gold, but it's still dirty, full of other metals like silver, copper, and zinc. Enter the Miller process, one of the fastest ways to produce 99.5% pure gold. The gold is melted in a furnace, and then chlorine gas is bubbled through the molten metal. It sounds dangerous, and it is, but it's incredibly effective. The chlorine binds with base metals, which rise to the surface as slag. What's left? A mostly pure gold melt. But for investment-grade bars, the kind stored in national vaults, we need to go further. This is where the Wohl-Will process comes in. It's essentially gold electrolysis. A bar of impure gold acts as the anode in an acid bath. When an electric current passes through, pure gold dissolves and redeposits onto a thin sheet of gold suspended as the cathode. What emerges from this? Flakes of gold so pure, you could make bullion straight from them. We're talking 99.99% purity. Refineries like Valcambi and Pamp Suisse in Switzerland have this down to an art. The environment is cleaner than most hospitals. Robotic arms, spectrometers, and laser markers ensure every atom is accounted for. And here's a mind-blowing fact. Some gold refineries make more money recycling electronics than mining ore. An old smartphone might only contain 0.034 grams of gold, but across millions of devices, it adds up. Gold is so chemically unique that it's nearly impossible to fake. That's why purity matters, and that's why the world still trusts it. Now comes the moment of truth, casting the gold bar. The purified gold is melted down in furnaces reaching over 1,100 degrees Celsius. The molten metal glows like lava as it's poured into graphite molds. Within minutes, it cools into the iconic gold bar. These are no ordinary bricks. A standard good delivery bar weighs about 12.4 kilograms, that's 400 troy ounces, and is worth over $600,000 at current prices. Each bar is then weighed to the exact decimal, assayed to confirm purity, and stamped with a serial number, refiner's mark, and weight. Next, the vault's security and secrecy. Once a gold bar is cast, refined, and stamped, it doesn't go on display. It disappears into the shadows of some of the most secure facilities on the planet. Transporting gold is a military-grade operation. From refinery to vault, the journey is often escorted by armored vehicles, drones, private guards, and sometimes even military patrols in unstable regions. Where does it all go? To vaults, the kind of places you'll never see in person. Take the Federal Reserve Bank of New York, sitting on 6,000 tons of gold 80 feet underground, or Fort Knox, the U.S. Army's ultra-secure gold storage facility, which hasn't been officially open to civilians since 1974. Then there's the Bank of England, whose gold vaults are so massive they rest on a network of keys, sensors, and steel-reinforced walls that can withstand a direct bomb hit. It's said that their keys are over a foot long, and no two vaults use the same one. But it's not just governments. Private vaults in Zurich, Singapore, and Dubai now store billions in gold for wealthy individuals and investment firms. Today, central banks collectively hold over 35,000 tons of gold. That's over $2 trillion worth. Fun statistics for you. The entire amount of gold ever mined, since the beginning of human history, would fit inside just 3 Olympic-sized swimming pools. So why did gold become the currency globally recognized? Why gold? Why not silver or seashells or salt? Well, at one point, all of those were used as money. But gold had something special. It didn't rust. It didn't decay. It was soft enough to shape, but hard enough to last. And crucially, it was rare, but not too rare. You could find it, but not easily, which made it perfect for trade. The ancient Egyptians used gold to honor the gods, and by 600 BCE, the Lydians, in what is now modern-day Turkey, minted the world's first official gold coins. By the 19th century, major economies shifted to what we now call the gold standard. Your money, whether a dollar, pound, or franc, was backed by a physical amount of gold locked in a vault. But in 1971, the U.S. made a historic move. President Richard Nixon ended the convertibility of dollars to gold, effectively ending the gold standard. We entered the era of fiat currency, where money is backed by governments, not metal. Yet gold never lost its luster. In fact, whenever faith in fiat currencies fades, during inflation, war, or recession, gold shines again. Why gold still matters. Today. We live in the age of algorithms, cryptocurrencies, and AI. So why does humanity still cling to this shiny yellow rock? Because when systems fail, when networks go down, when governments crumble, gold doesn't care. Gold is tangible, universal. No matter where you are, Zurich or Zimbabwe, gold is recognized. You don't need a password to access it. You don't need an internet connection to spend it. You just need a vault. Or maybe a very good hiding place. That's why central banks are still buying. That's why investors rush to gold in times of crisis. In fact, every time the world economy trembles, gold prices surge. And now, in a twist of irony, even Bitcoin is called digital gold. But here's the big question. If you had to preserve your wealth for the next 50 years, would you choose gold or Bitcoin? Drop your answer in the comments. I genuinely want to know. Because whether it's mined from rock or mined by code, the question isn't just what's valuable, it's what we trust when everything else fails. So next time you see a gold bar, remember, it's more than just wealth. It's the end of a journey that started deep underground, passed through fire, acid, and vaults, and ended as the most trusted store of value in human history. If you melted all the gold ever mined, it would only fill about 3 Olympic-sized swimming pools. That's how rare it really is. If you enjoyed this deep dive into how gold bars are made, subscribe to the channel. We've got more fascinating behind-the-scenes videos coming: diamonds, chocolate, cash, and more.